Hey guys, so going live just isn't working for me today. I've tried a few different times and I lose connection as soon as I start trying. But here is day 3. I'm just going to go ahead and record it and post it because it needs to get out there. Okay. As a general review, these principles that I've covered in day 1 and 2 and now on day 3 are how I bridge the gap from going for multiple years without any progress. Between these two pictures, 3, 4, up to 5 years of there's barely any difference between the two. But between about 12 months-ish, this is the progress that I managed to make as soon as I figured out how to put all these pieces together. And that's what we are going to do today, is put all these pieces together, because once you've got them and you start making progress, you can always improve some more, like here in the last picture. And I can only imagine how this next year is going to go as well, because it just continues to improve. So once we get through our total daily energy expenditure, we find our maintenance, okay? We can then craft a deficit for fat loss, for sustainability, longevity, predictability even, like we craft a budget for a house, okay? That's what it comes down to, is numbers. If you have a numerical goal that you want to hit when it comes to buying a house or going on vacation, you start to track the money that you are making and the money that you are spending. And that is the pure essence, of creating and crafting a deficit to get where you want to go. Because once you make that plan, you can execute it, right? It's not so vague that you just have no idea what more or less means. You have a numerical amount that helps you get where you want to go. And even if you have some trips and stumbles here and there, you still know what you need to do in order to either catch up, or that it might take you a little longer to get where you want to go. Because even when it comes to paying bills, we trip and stumble sometimes. Things happen. Things don't always fall exactly the way that we want them to go. And that is a big part of our final component, which is your mood and just circumstances. Okay? Because if you want something sustainable long term, you have to understand that obstacles are going to happen, and you have to give yourself grace in terms of how you're going to solve them and how you're going to overcome them with time. And that is the effervescence of fat loss to its core, is understanding mistakes are going to happen, things are going to come up, and it's a whole lifelong journey. It doesn't matter if it doesn't happen in the next month or 2 months. It's something that you keep picking up and improving upon. Okay, we're looking for progress and not perfection. So once we have what our maintenance is, we can then break that down into numbers in terms of our budget. And I've done this for several different clients. This is something that looks pretty confusing, but once you get to it, it is numbers. Okay, once you have your maintenance, and then you have your timeline, and you have what you are willing to do to get there, which is consistency through exercise and movement, and sticking to a similar amount of food, and going with averages per week or per month, because that's how a budget works too, right? Day by day, things aren't going to go exactly how you want them to. What you look at is the long-term averages that is happening through weeks and months, okay? So this is possible to be calculated for each person, and we generally break it down. There's more of a safety zone. It's the same way with loans, in terms of like a longer term goal is going to get you much farther than something like right away, I want this in 2 months. No, it's something more like, if I could have a loan that takes longer time to pay back at a smaller amount, then it's much more manageable, right? So whenever we're looking at a timeline for our fat loss goals, the longer you give yourself, the better off you're going to be, because it probably took years to put on that extra weight that you might not want to have right now. Okay, so you have to give yourself potentially years to get where you want to go. When it came to mine, it took over a year, I think, to lose this 60 pounds, but it was so worth it, because pretty much everything that I had learned, let me fix this for you. These two middle pictures, the difference between them being just over a year, it was 60 pounds down of fat, but I had built a lot of muscle. You can see some of the muscular definition starting to come in and it just compounded into the future, so that even as like a year or two later, things just got better. So everything you've learned in the past can still benefit you into the future. Okay, do not think of it in terms of wasted time and energy. We want to build upon what you've already learned about yourself, figure out where your pitfalls and mistakes are, and anticipate future problems that are going to arise, because we know that they will. Life works that way. It's always going to give us new obstacles. Okay, so then we have I have to collect my thoughts. All right, I'm going to come back to my tablet screen here, because if you give yourself more time, like this is a 6-month time frame here to lose about 20 pounds, okay? That is a realistic goal, because if we're looking at what our calorie goal is down at the bottom, that 1,800-ish calories is doable for most people. It's not a 1,200 calorie deficit that you're trying to do, because you will be balancing also not just your food, but also your movement. You can increase your deficit with movement so that you can allow yourself to eat more at the same time as well. Because we have lifestyles, we have things to maintain, we have events, and it becomes a balance between going out and doing fun things and enjoying food at the same time while also maintaining your goal. Okay? I also want you to think of this in terms of like holidays and events are times to enjoy yourself, but they don't typically happen super often, right? If they are happening more than once a week, I want you to take a second to think to yourself, like, are these really special events? Okay? Unless you're an event planner, generally no. And if you are, it's probably part of your job, which makes it a bit less special. Okay, so 1 pound of fat is equivalent to 3,500 calories. And once you know your maintenance, you know how much fat you can generally lose given a week, 2 weeks, 2 months, something like that. In order to do this, though, we have to understand our nutrition labels, how to track food and keep track of our variables, okay? That is our food, basically anything we put in our mouth, not just food, but also beverages, and then how we are moving, keeping track of our steps, our sleep, what kind of exercises we're doing, keeping consistent with those things, okay? Once you have your budget, sticking to it will raise new questions, okay? And this is where I feel the fitness industry really does people the disservice, because it doesn't talk as much about moods that you're going to go through as you encounter this process. Because food is a very emotional thing, okay? Most of us are emotional eaters to some degree, and therefore it takes some finagling to find a balance between what you enjoy eating to enjoy yourself versus what you are using to just kind of get through the day. Okay, it's very important to find the difference between the two, and that is what I like to work on, is the emotional eating side of things. Okay, once we start aggravating, maybe that's not the right word, but once we start getting into where your food choices matter a little more, you'll start to recognize some patterns that you have around food that may require some healing. Okay, there's all kinds of things that go with this. This was a big part of my own journey, because I myself was emotional eating myself. Even though I would do great 6 days a week, I would eat myself way out of my budget on the weekends or something else, just because of out of stress or lack of something better to do. Okay, so mood is a huge part of this process that needs to be addressed for many people, and other times for people it's just not eating enough to hit those basic bodily needs. And then they think that they are binge eating when really their body is just lashing out for more energy. Okay, there's a balance between the two. And it takes some time to find that. So I do have my spring special still going. I have an opening for 3 more people before my prices are going to go up, because I'm strapped for time as well, and my process keeps getting better. So if you want to get in on that, comment deficit down below, or send me a private message as soon as possible so that I can help you, because these are going to fill up, and then I may not have space for more people later, and if I do, it will be at a higher price point. Okay, My last piece of information for you here is going to be understanding your phases and seasons. Just like we go through menses as well as the moon goes through phases, there's a benefit to having different phases of fat loss planned out for you. Being in a maintenance phase to recover, being in a fat loss phase to start the journey, and then also whether or not to pivot, persist, or refine your actual process, okay? Because there are plateaus, there are all kinds of things that are going to come up. There's a reason why so many people struggle with the much more solid long-term improvements and changes to their lifestyle, their body, how they feel, their confidence, okay? So I'm here for you. Please let me know if you need anything. I hope that this is okay that I did it this way because it just wasn't wanting to go live for me. But otherwise, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you again soon.